This is gonna end up being a video of me obsessing about Dorian Haviliard for 30 minutes. Hey guys, Holly J here, aka Planet Ginger, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today we are jumping into episode 2 of my rereading Throne of Glass journey, and we are going to be reading the OG Throne of Glass. If you didn't watch my first episode, we did start by reading The Assassin's Blade. When I originally read Throne of Glass, I kind of regretted not starting with The Assassin's Blade. So in this reread, I wanted to go back and start off with The Assassin's Blade. When doing a reread, it's really nice to read it in chronological order because you just notice so much more stuff. It's just been a really fun time so far. Throne of Glass. I feel like I'm getting ready to go get coffee and chat with old friends or something. I'm so excited to dive back into this world and to be with my man Dorian again and just to be back in the glass castle with all these people that now I know and love. And at the time I originally read this, I just obviously didn't really know the characters all that well. And it was a new world to me. And I just feel like I'm going to pick up so much more on this read than I did the first time. So we are just going to dive right into this video, start on this vlog. This is your warning. Just turn the video off right now if you haven't read all of Throne of Glass. There's going to be major spoilers. And I would even say if you haven't read all of Sarah J. Maas's books up to date, I would not recommend this reread series. That is your final warning. I got a day to myself today, so I just want to get reading. I'll update you guys when I have any thoughts. This part made me laugh so hard. Someone knocks her down. I think it's Parrington actually. Yeah, he was almost as large as her overseer, clothed in reds and oranges that matched his thinning hair. His obsidian eyes glittered as his grip tightened on her neck. If she could move her right arm just a few inches, she could throw him off balance and grab his sword. The shackles dug into her stomach and fizzing, boiling rage turned her face scarlet. After a too long moment, the Crown Prince spoke. Okay, Dorian's speaking, everyone. Be quiet. I don't quite comprehend why you'd force someone to bow when the purpose of the gesture is to display allegiance and respect. His words were coated with glorious boredom. Selena tried to pivot a free eye to the prince, but could only see a pair of black leather boots against the white floor. It's clear that you respect me, Duke Parrington, but it's a bit unnecessary to put such effort into forcing Selena Sardothian to have the same opinion. You and I know very well she has no love for my family, so perhaps your intent is to humiliate her. I love this man. I literally love him. Every time he speaks, I'm stars in my eyes,
whatever you say, Dorian.
Everything he says is so savage, but in a very bored, arrogant way. I am obsessed with Dorian Haviliard. I literally love this man so much. So anyways, this is gonna end up being a video of me obsessing about Dorian Haviliard for 30 minutes. Even when he introduces himself. I don't believe that we've ever had the pleasure of an introduction, but as you probably know, I'm Dorian Haviliard, Crown Prince of Adarlan, perhaps now Crown Prince of most of Aurelia. I mean, say less, Prince. Say less. You have my full attention. Or this little line. Dorian grinned. What remarkable eyes you have and how angry you are. He just loves chaos. I think that's why I love him. Because he just is so unserious and he just loves drama. He thrives on that. And it's just so funny. I just eat that shit up. The properness in which all them talk in this one is just cracking me up. Kaltain is showing Selena around, and so they run across Nehemia. Kaltain's oh, Captain Westfall, blah, blah. Nehemia's coming with him, and so she goes, oh, this is your Royal Highness, Princess Nehemia of Elway. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her last name. She's telling Selena about this, and Selena's oh, okay, kind of looking at Nehemia, kind of trying to suss out the whole situation. And then Kaltain goes, oh, and the Lady Lily. rebellion. Like, she obviously does not care about Selena. She really doesn't like Selena. I imagine you've had a long journey, Selena continues in Elway. Have you arrived today, Your Highness? Like, I mean, it's just all so proper. And then Nehemia just starts like kind of dragging everything about the castle. Selena goes, what do you make of the castle? And she goes, it's the most foolish thing I've ever seen. I'd sooner enter a castle made of sand. Like, she just like does not give up. And then, of course, Kaltain's just like sitting there because she can't understand Elway, and she's just like, what? And Selena's like, ugh, ignore her. And then she even like tries to correct Nehemia. So Nehemia goes, we were talking with the weather. And she goes, about the weather? like just all the interactions with Kaltain is just like so funny to me. I just remember so viciously hating Kaltain in this first book. I was just like, get this away. I don't want her present. I don't want to listen to her talk. Like, I'm so irritated by her, but I'm so glad that she got a redemption arc. Like, the reality is there's a lot of Kaltains in the world where they are just kind of out for themselves. They're selfish, but they just kind of don't really know better. I like her character arc a lot. It's one of my favorites. And then Kale, everything Kale does, I feel like I'm just like rolling my eyes and I'm like, oh, that's such a Kale thing to do. Not in a bad way. I am not a Kale hater. I will never be a Kale hater. I think he is such a pivotal, important character. He was such a big role in the series, but he's such like a memeable character. Like, everything he does, every time he tries to do something right, it's wrong. And it just makes me laugh so hard. That's kind of my update for now. We're at page 97 right now, so, you know, we're a chunk of the way through the book. Obviously, we're starting to get into the thick of things and like the competition. We're kind of finding out more stuff about just the happenings of the nobility and the court in general in the Glass Castle. Let's do a little bit of an update here. Wow, I'm so white. You can tell it's winter. My skin is like glowing white. That's crazy. I'm literally having the best time reading this book. I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more my second read through than my first. The first time I read Throne of Glass, it wasn't until I read Queen of Shadows that I was like thoroughly invested in this book, in this series, like everything. I think it does have to do with the fact that the whole kind of plot line of this first book is competition base. I have a really love-hate relationship with the competition. Well, I don't even know if there's much love, to be honest with you. I really don't like, I don't know if it's even a trope or if it's just a plot line, but whenever a book has the main plot of existing around a competition or a fight to the death or something along those lines, it is really hard for me to be invested in the book. I don't know why. I'm just not a huge fan. I know that that trope is very common. I think the reason why I didn't really care for it in Throne of Glass is because there was no part of me that was like, yeah, Selena's gonna die when she is in this competition. Which, it's very hard to pull that off in a book like this. The concept that your main character might actually die, it's pretty much a guarantee that they're gonna live. And I want to actually be scared for my main character and actually feel like they are in danger. And even though in Throne of Glass, the competitions are intense, there were all of these supposed super impressive people in this competition, and all I saw was Cain and Selena. Those were literally the only people that actually had a chance through this entire book. If this is a competition to be the king's assassin, I should have been threatened by more than one character, and it just wasn't like that. It was just very obvious and very clear that the ending was going to be her and Cain. So honestly, The whole time I'm reading this, even on my second read through, it's very hard for me to sit here and be like, oh yeah, the competition is like really engaging, because it's actually not to me at all. I am way more invested in her relationship with Dorian, her relationship with Kale, what's actually going on in the castle. That is taking up way more of my brain power than this stupid competition. It is so secondary to the point where I almost get annoyed when she like has to go compete. So yeah, I didn't really intend to talk about that. That just kind of came out. That was kind of my issue with Throne of Glass the first time I read it, and why I didn't really enjoy it, because I just was not sold on the whole competition, because it really doesn't matter. The only reason why that's even in here is just to get her to be the king's champion and getting her into the castle. I literally think that's the only purpose for the competition in the scheme of the series. We are, about midway through. I think it's so interesting how many times they comment on Duke Parrington's obsidian ring and like his obsidian eyes. Like, it is so very obvious to me going and reading through this again that Duke Parrington has something wrong with him and he is not a normal person. It's funny because the first time I read this, there was just so much going on and I just didn't know what to pick up on, that I just totally bypassed all of that. I don't remember everybody being so suspicious of Duke Parrington like so early on. Oh, I wanted to bring up this little part here. I believe Selena's in the library and she is doing research on the word or whatever. So she says, all I can find is just radical and outlandish theories. I never knew any of this. Why? Some books claim the word is the force that holds together and governs Aurelia. And not just Aurelia, countless other worlds too. I think that that's super important, because we already know, if you read House of Flame and Shadow, this is a major spoiler, the word is mentioned in House of Flame and Shadow, which I can't wait to go back and reread that section. I've never heard of it before, Kale says. And he picks up his book, his eyes remain fixed on face. I always thought the word was an old term for fate or destiny. So then Selena goes, so did I. But the word isn't a religion, at least not in the northern parts of the continent, and it's not included in the worship of the goddess or the gods. He set his book on his lap. Is there a point to this beyond your obsession with these marks in the garden? Or are you bored? What? Kale. Sensitive Kale. It's interesting. Some theories suggest the mother goddess is just a spirit from one of these other worlds, and that she strayed through something called a word gate and found Aurelia in need of form and light. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I have not read ACOTAR in a really long time, but I believe they always talk about the mother in ACOTAR, which again is just another connection. There's also another section where it says something really interesting. It says there's an idea that before the goddess arrived, there was life in ancient civilization, but somehow they disappeared, perhaps through the word gate thing. Ruins exist, ruins too old to be of fey making. I think that this is really important because, again, this could be a connection to the other worlds that we read about. She ran again through the information she'd gathered. There was also the idea of the word gates, which appeared numerous times alongside the mention of word marks, but she'd never heard of them. When she'd first stumbled across the notion of word gates days ago, it had seemed interesting, and so she researched, digging through piles of old parchment, only to find more puzzling theories. The gates were both real and invisible things. Humans could not see them, but they could be summoned and accessed using the word marks. They opened into other realms, some of them good, some of them bad. Things could come through from the other side and slither into Aurelia. It was due to this that many of the strange and fell creatures of Aurelia exist. I just really honestly did not remember word and word gates and word keys and word marks being super prominent in the first book. I think that has to do with the fact that, like, obviously on your first read, you're just not picking up on all the clues. You're focused on what's the big plot going on. And I don't know, maybe some of you are really detailed readers and you just pick up on that stuff really easily. I sometimes can and sometimes can't. It just really depends. And like I said, when I was struggling to get through this book at first, I just did not pick up on all of that. So I'm going to continue reading. Like I said, I'm a little over halfway through. We'll just keep plugging along here. We'll talk soon. Okay, let's talk about Throne of Glass. We are officially done with this reread. I'm just getting out my notes so that I can give you guys A to Z of my feelings, thoughts, everything like that. Oh, hi, Munchkin. Do you want to say hi? Do you want to say hi? Yeah. Throne of Glass. Let's talk about it. I originally rated this 3 stars. I think that that is still an accurate rating. I think I've already kind of talked about this, but I do have a better appreciation for this book, reading it a second time. The story definitely hits different. Boy, is there a lot of little details in this first book. Oftentimes, I feel like first books in a series are generally not flooded with a ton of information that you need to know later on. There's a lot of information given in this book that not only applies to the entirety of Throne of Glass, but also applies to potentially her other series. So I kind of want to talk about that more in detail. I will say, diving back into this, I do kind of get nostalgia over the dynamic between her, Kale, and Dorian. Rereading this, I really was like, wow, I miss the 3 of them taking on everything together, because once we get into specifically after Crown of Midnight, I feel like everything shifts so much and they all 3 kind of like break apart and they're kind of all dealing with different things and they're not really either physically together or even just like emotionally together sometimes. Like if you have childhood friends, it's almost like looking back at how you and your friends used to be back in the day and then being like, oh, that was cute. Like, remember how innocent we were and naive we were, and like, look at how far we've come. That's literally the nostalgia I feel reading Throne of Glass. It like kind of makes me proud because I'm like, oh, you know, they really did come a long way, especially my man Dorian. We're going to be talking about Dorian a lot. I'm just going to preface that because he is just the love of my life. Dorian grows so much. He is just so like naive and so just like in his own little world. And Selena comes and like kind of disrupts all that. It's very sweet because they do have like a little romance kind of budding, but then Selena kind of puts a stop to it and she's kind of like, you know, you're the son of the king. I really can't do it. He respects her for it. He doesn't probably necessarily like it, but he does respect her for that. I like how they have this budding romance, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Yeah, they like kiss a little bit. I think they spend a night together, but nothing really happens between them. I just think it's really sweet. And especially looking at how they end up relationship wise later on down the road, they just have such love and respect for each other. And she really does change his life. I mean, from here on out, Dorian's life gets flipped on its head. I really like his character development. Kale, I would argue that him and Selena have one of the most realistic relationships that I've seen done in a fantasy series. I feel like we don't see like breakups very often in fantasy series. We see like the mated pair trope, we see the enemies to lovers, we see all this stuff, but we don't see 2 people who like genuinely love and respect each other break up. I think that that's something that Sarah J. Maas does really well with Kale and Selena. So I'll probably talk more about this in like Crown of Midnight and maybe Heir of Fire, all those, because you see the breakup happening more. Right here, they're like really not even together. They're just kind of like flirting with each other. And I think that's part of why she puts the kibosh on Dorian's relationship, is because I think she realizes that she is feeling more towards Kale. And I think he almost reminds her a little bit of Sam in some of his like noble traits and the way he kind of talks to her and stuff. It kind of resembles the way that her and Sam kind of used to be, in my opinion. Obviously, like that's the same as in real life relationships. You know, if you're comfortable with a certain type of person, you do kind of seek out that same style of person. And Dorian, she's not used to being with people of nobility. He has to kind of live a fake life because he's a prince and he has to, you know, dot his I's and cross his T's and like make sure he's doing everything appropriately. And Selena's not necessarily used to that kind of environment. Like I said, I'll dive deeper into the breakup analysis when I get more into Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire, where we're seeing Kale and Selena's breakup a bit more clearly. But yeah, all that to say, it's just all very nostalgic for me. I just very much enjoyed watching that trio interact in this book. So that was probably my favorite part of reading this. I will say I did pick up on a lot of Cain on this read through. I mean, he literally was possessed, I think, the entire time he was in the castle. For some reason, I thought he was like heavily into the tournament, and then kind of towards the end, he like gets possessed by the Valg. I think from the beginning, he's possessed, because I mean, right away, Selena talks about like his dark eyes, and him and Duke Parrington have this like matching ring thing, and I just don't think I realized how soon that starts happening. Oh. One of Dorian's quotes that literally just had me swooning. Him and Selena are talking about marriage, not to each other, but just like in a general sense, marriage. I think she asks him if he's married. "I'm not married," he said softly, "because I can't stomach the idea of marrying a woman inferior to me in mind and spirit. It would mean the death of my soul." I do think that's so important in relationships, and I really love that quote, because talking about just like relationships nowadays in today's society, I think it's really easy to settle and to just be with somebody who you're not like truly compatible with. And it's very difficult to hold out to find your person and to find someone you're compatible with, not even just an emotional level, but like mind, body, spirit. So then she responds, "You could easily love some woman on the side. Marriage doesn't mean you can't love other people." His sapphire eyes flashed. "You marry the person you love and none other," he said, and she laughed. Mostly this has to do with the fact that like kings and princes and all that do get married, but they have their side women, you know? And so Selena's like, "I don't understand your thought on this, because you can always have side women." But he's like, "No, I don't want that to be my life. I want to find my wife, and that's going to be my wife," which I think, like, we love to see it, Dorian. We love to see a man who knows what he wants and nothing less. And then Selena hits him with, "What's the point in having a mind if you don't use it to make judgments?" And then he hits her with, "What's the point in having a heart if you don't use it to spare others from the harsh judgments of your mind?" I just can't. Like, anytime Dorian speaks, I just can't. I can't. If there's a perfect man ever that I have read, it is Dorian Havillard. So sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. Let's look at the end of the book now. There's so much to talk about, and honestly, like, I'm just not gonna even have enough time to talk about all this. Maybe after this series is done, I'll like look at all of my highlights and kind of like compile them and talk about everything like step by step, because it's also a little hard to just talk about one book at a time when we want to look at the entirety of the series. So I'm just gonna read some of the things to you guys that I had highlighted. I thought it was really interesting how Selena and Cain, I believe, are the only people who can like see all these dead people coming to her. So it starts off, all around her were whispering, laughing, otherworldly voices. They called to her, but called a different name, a dangerous name. So obviously we know that's Aelin. So Kale's kind of just telling her to get up. I think we see that a lot in the upcoming books where Selena's down and out. She's, you know, possibly defeated, and then loved ones are telling her to get up and keep fighting. So then it talks about these beings. There were two creatures now, and the second one had wings. It was grinning just as Selena didn't have time to shout. As it launched into flight, it threw her to the ground. Its claws ripped at her. She thrashed. Where had the world gone? Where was she? There were more of them. More appeared. The dead, demons, monsters. They wanted her. They called her name. Most of them had wings, and the ones that didn't were carried in the talons of others. They struck as they passed, their claws slicing her flesh. They were going to bring her inside their realm, and the tower was the gaping portal. She would be devoured. Terror like she'd never known took over. Selena covered her head as they swept upon her, and she kicked blindly. Where had the world gone? How much poison had they given her? So it's really interesting, because I almost feel like Selena can see this stuff because of the poison, which begs the question, why? Is it the poison? Is it the fact that she's dying? Is it Elena? Is it her bloodline? I'm a little confused about that myself. If you have ideas, feel free to tell me in the comments, but I think that that's a really interesting moment. What was happening? Had there been something in the wine? But there was also something abnormal about the way Cain just stood there smiling. Was there actually something there that they couldn't see? Again, alluding to the fact that Cain can see all this stuff going on, but nobody else can. At least my take on it is she kind of just assumed it was an illusion for herself. But then once Cain was reacting to the illusion that she was seeing, she was kind of like, oh my God, can he see them too? Also, can we talk about the descriptions presence of all of those beings. It kind of is giving me the same sort of feel as in Crescent City when the portals open and all these demons are flooding into Crescent City. Bryce is like fighting with Ethan and stuff, and they're trying to close the portal. It's giving the same feel for me. So then Kane says something really interesting later on. Kane's attention was on Selena as he said, "You were brought here. All of you were. All the players in the unfinished game, my friends," he gestured to the dead, "have told me so." I mean, obviously this comes with Kane just being possessed, but my question is, we know he's possessed by the Valg, but I just want to know, like, what kind and, like, how high up was he? So then Selena gets the mark, which I actually completely forgot about, like, that word mark showing up on Selena's forehead or on her face. And I could be wrong, but I feel like that just kind of like never gets brought up again past like Air of Fire, I think. I could be wrong. This is why we're doing a reread, but I completely forgot that she had that like word mark show up. And I'm pretty sure Elena and her talk about that later. So anyways, the fight kind of gets over and Nehemia comes and sees Selena and she talks to her and she's like pretty open and honest. And she just says, "I won't waste time dancing around the truth." Nehemia said, "I saved your life at the duel." She had a hazy memory of Nehemia's fingers making strange symbols in the air. "I didn't hallucinate all of that. And you saw everything too." Selena tried to sit up a little higher, but found it too painful to even move an inch. "No, you didn't," the princess said. "And yes, I saw everything that you saw. My gifts enabled me to see what others normally cannot. Yesterday, the blood-bane Caltaine put in your wine made you see it too." I mean, that kind of answers my question, but doesn't. Like, it still makes me question, why did the Bloodbane make her see those things? Was it actually just the Bloodbane? Was it the fact that it was Aylin's bloodline? Was it Elena helping? Was it Nehemia helping? I mean, that's kind of a non-answer answer to me. "What lurks beyond the veil of this world? I don't think Caltaine intended that effect, but it reacted to your blood in that way." Oh, magic calls to magic. Okay, so that kind of does answer my question. I didn't think it did, but so basically it sounds like it is the mixture of Selena's blood and the Bloodbane created this magic that she could see past the veil. Which then leads to the question of Nehemia. How is she able to see past the veil? I just think that there's so much we didn't get to figure out with Nehemia and her ties to like Elena, her ties to everything in general. I mean, she obviously was extremely knowledgeable in what was going on, and then she just kind of dies before she can even really tell Selena anything. I would like to know way more about her in this entire situation, her purpose and what she knew and like the grand scheme of things. I think that there's just so much more depth to her character than we ever got to see. So anyways, so they're talking about word marks and it says, "We keep them a secret because of the terrible power that they wield. Terrible in that it can be used for good or evil, though most have used their power for wicked deeds. Since the moment I arrived here, I was aware that someone was using the word marks to call forth demons from the other worlds, realms beyond our realm. That fool Kane knew enough about the word marks to summon the creatures, but didn't know how to control them and send them back. I've spent months banishing and destroying the creatures he summoned. That is why I've sometimes been so absent." Then she goes on to explain to Selena about the marks under her bed and how she kept putting them there, which I always think that part is so funny, how she kept putting them there and then Selena would like wipe them off and she'd have to go put them back under her bed as protection and stuff. I don't want to just sit here and read quotes to you guys, but there's just so many quotes that are just like, oh my gosh, I need to know more. So there's a couple more that I just want to read to you guys and get your kind of opinions on. I'm going to start at this one where, again, Selena and Nehemia are kind of talking more about the word marks and stuff. "With the word marks, I was able to open a portal into one of the realms of the other world and let through Elena, first queen of Adarlan. You know her?" Selena raised an eyebrow. "No, but she answered my call for help. Not all realms are full of darkness and death. Some are filled with creatures of good, beings that, if our need is great enough, will follow us into Aurelia to help in our task. She heard your plea for help long before I opened the portal. Is it possible to go to these other worlds?" Selena vaguely recalled the word gates that she'd stumbled across in that book months and months ago. Nehemia studied her carefully. "I don't know. My schooling isn't yet completed, but the queen was both in and not in this world. She was in the in-between, where she could not fully cross over, nor could the creatures that you saw. It takes an enormous amount of power to open a true portal, to let something through, and even then the portal will close after a moment. Cain could open it long enough for the reread to come through, but then it would shut, so I had to open it long enough to send it back. We've been playing a cat and mouse game for months. She rubbed her temples. You have no idea how exhausting it's been. Cain summoned all of those things at the duel, didn't he? Nehemia contemplated the question. Perhaps they might have already been waiting, but I could only see them because of the bloodbane that Kaltain gave me. I don't know, Elentaya. Nehemia sighed and stood. All I know is that Cain knew the secrets of my people's power that has long been forgotten in the lands of the north, and that troubles me. At least he's dead, Selena offered, then swallowed. But in that place, Cain didn't look like Cain. He looked like a demon. Why? Perhaps the evil he kept summoning seeped into his soul and twisted him into something he was not. Again, I just have so many questions about this whole interaction, and again, it leads to the bigger concept of how all of these worlds are intertwined, and these demons, what are they? Who are they? Yeah, I just have so many questions. The ending, like I said, there's so much information at the ending, and so much information in the middle section when Selena is discovering about word marks and stuff. I literally could sit here and this entire video would just be a quote video on like interesting quotes or relevant quotes that I've highlighted, and I don't want to do that. I want to talk more about just like my general thoughts on this reread. The more I'm reading Throne of Glass, it's interesting because I keep trying to pinpoint things that connect me to ACOTAR, but I actually feel like I'm finding a lot more connections to Crescent City than I am ACOTAR. I want to see if it'll continue as I keep reading Throne of Glass, if I see these connections to Crescent City and stuff. I feel like I've talked to you guys this ear off enough. Hopefully this video was interesting to you, maybe a bit informative, maybe a bit chaotic and all over the place. I don't really know. But I definitely enjoyed reading this again. I'm excited to dive into Crown of Midnight next. I'm excited to see the dynamic of Selena and Kale and them associating with this rebel group, which I know that they do. I'm ready to dive into the next read, and I'm excited to take you guys along with me. So stay tuned for the next episode. It should be coming out hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm literally just going to start immediately when I'm done with this, diving into Crown of Midnight. So, you know, we're just keeping the momentum going here. If you are interested in episode 3 of my rereading Throne of Glass series, where we dive into Crown of Midnight, make sure to subscribe. If you like this series, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and let me know what you guys have picked up in Throne of Glass. If you've done a reread, let me know in the comments any of your reactions, because I would love to see them. I have highlighted so much in this book as I read it, and I only scratched the surface of my highlights in this video. I'd love to see you guys' theories and connections. If you've made it this far in the video, let me know by commenting this emoji, and thank you so much for watching. We will see you on the next video. Bye!